Armada is a small rural community located in Macomb County, Michigan, known for its picturesque countryside surrounded by orchards and farmland, and a close-knit atmosphere. It was known to be a safe community, where everyone knew everyone else, until a shocking turn of events occurred in 2014, which left the residents of the small town shaken to its core. 14-year-old April Dawn Millsap was a fun-loving teen who lived with her mother Jennifer and stepfather David in the remote town of Armada. By 2014, she was in 8th grade at Armada Middle School. Her mother described her as a ray of sunshine who loved being creative, drawing, experimenting with makeup and clothes, and spending time with and texting her friends. By this time, April was dating 15-year-old Austin Albertson, and they'd been together for around about a year by this time. On July 24th, 2014, April was enjoying summer vacation and had, as most teenagers do, slept in that morning. She spent some time on her computer before messaging a friend, where they decided to make plans to visit the mall in the coming days. Sadly, this trip would never occur. At 5 p.m. that night, April ate some dinner as her stepfather headed to work. About 45 minutes later, April decided to take the family border collie dog, Penny, out for a walk, something which was a common occurrence for April, especially during the warm summer months. April adored Penny, and the pair were inseparable. The teen packed some snacks and a water bowl for Penny into a backpack before leaving the house at around 6 p.m. towards Macomb Orchard Trail, a popular area for dog walkers. Little did her family know that this would be the very last time that they would see 14-year-old April alive. After about an hour and a half, April's mother grew concerned that her daughter hadn't yet returned home. The teen often enjoyed spending time outdoors and would often use the time she walked Penny to meet with her friends or her boyfriend, so Jennifer initially believed her daughter had simply been caught chatting and lost track of time. Growing increasingly concerned as time passed and knowing she hadn't taken enough supplies for the dog for a longer trek, Jennifer sent text messages to her daughter asking her to return home. But April failed to respond. This was highly irregular, as in normal circumstances, April would reply almost instantly to any sort of messages she received. Jennifer sent another text, "Where are you?" Then another, "Call me," followed by several other frantic texts, but radio silence. After half an hour, her mother called her phone, but it went straight to voicemail, and by this point, Jennifer knew that something wasn't right. She called Austin, her daughter's boyfriend, but he hadn't heard from April either, deepening their concerns for the 14-year-old's welfare. Austin arrived at the family home shortly thereafter at around 8 p.m. and told Jennifer that he had just received a text from April, which had been sent over an hour prior at 6:28 p.m. He had been in an area where he didn't have cell reception and had only received the disturbing text message left by April, which sent chills down their spines. It read, quote, "I think I almost got kidnapped. OMFG." Jennifer then immediately called David at work and told him that April had gone missing. Meanwhile, Jennifer, Austin, and his friend headed for the trail where April had gone to walk Penny, entering from the 3 different directions you could enter the trail. At around 8:20 p.m, just as the trio entered the woods, 2 joggers making their way along the mountain bike trail discovered Penny alone on her leash in the park area. Then they noticed a shoe lying on the ground, and to their horror, their eyes met the body of a teenage girl lying dead in amongst dense foliage nearby, the body of 14-year-old April Millsap. The joggers immediately dialed 911, and the Armada Police Department arrived at the scene, closely followed by Michigan State Police, who were informed that there had been a homicide in the area. Armada rarely had more than one police officer on duty at the time, so for the state police to be called in to assist was extremely significant in this case. Penny the dog led police down the ravine towards where April's body was found, in an area which was heavily concealed by bushes. After officers arrived at the scene, April's mother, her boyfriend, and his friend spoke to an officer, who then took Jennifer to the station, where they told her that a body had been found. As Jennifer was being interviewed, David heard about the discovery of a teen girl's body in the woods over the car radio, leaving him simply distraught. After her mother positively identified April's clothes, it was confirmed that the body belonged to the 14-year-old who had gone missing earlier that same night. Following this, a murder inquiry was launched, and the FBI joined the investigation the following day. April had clearly been victim to physical and sexual assault, with her clothes being removed and several bruises present all over her body. The coroner later determined that she had sustained over 48 separate injuries, most of which were sustained to the head. She had suffered severe head trauma, evident by shoe prints all over her face, which indicated that she had been brutally stomped to death. Pathologists determined cause of death to be blunt force trauma to the head and asphyxiation due to neck compression. Time of death was estimated to be between 6 and 8 p.m. After ruling out Jennifer and David as persons of interest in April's murder, police turned their attention to her boyfriend, Austin. During the interview process, investigators seized the 15-year-old's phone, where they discovered the odd text from April. Her iPhone, which had a very identifiable teddy bear phone case, was not found at the scene where her body was found. When officers pressed him on the matter, Austin told them that he believed April had been over-exaggerating or joking around when she had texted him. Officers believed that since the phone was not present at the crime scene, that someone had taken it and concealed it, going with the theory that Austin possibly took the phone and sent the text himself to cover his tracks. It also didn't go unnoticed that Austin failed to reply to this text, which investigators found somewhat odd. He admitted that he and April had been going through a rough patch in their relationship, and prior to her disappearance, the pair had been sending text messages to one another, with Austin admitting to interviewing officers that he had deleted around 4 messages he had sent to her. When questioned about his whereabouts on the night of April's death, Austin told investigators that he had gone to help a friend move a television at around 4:30 p.m. before heading to an out-of-town McDonald's drive-thru, then returning back to his own place of residence for around an hour. Police then tried to corroborate Austin's timeline of events in the following days and managed to obtain CCTV footage from the McDonald's restaurant on the night in question, backing up his story that he was indeed there when he said he was, at approximately 6:30 p.m. This was during the time frame in which April was killed, and because it was located several miles out of town, Austin was ruled out as having been involved in Millsap's death. The FBI assisted law enforcement in their search for April's missing phone, and 4 hours into the meticulous search, canine units discovered the device, badly damaged but still in its distinctive teddy bear case, approximately half a mile away from where April's body was found. Experts analysed the data on April's cell phone, but did not find any incriminating evidence or clues as to any possible meetups or fallouts. Meanwhile, a young man named Roger Mace, who resided just outside of Armada and attended the same school as April, was arrested for a physical altercation, clearly intoxicated upon his arrest. Whilst talking to police in custody, he rambled to them about April. Police's initial suspicions were that Mace was perhaps interested in her romantically, but he didn't physically know her or talk to her, and was cleared of having any involvement after having a cast iron alibi verified. After ruling out those closest to April, police started looking deeper into the possibility that her killer was someone not known to her. The chilling text became the main focal point here. Quote, "I think I almost got kidnapped, OMFG." The text itself indicates the teen was fearful that she was being followed by someone, and that someone was a person she did not know. One clue which was pivotal in helping potentially solve this case was the footprint of the person who had stomped on April's face. The shoe itself had left a clear herringbone pattern of the shoe tread on April's skin, giving forensic investigators something significant to work with, and a mark which appeared to be a brand logo, possibly Air Jordan's. Door-to-door inquiries were conducted in the vicinity, where a young girl reported seeing a dented white painter's van on the evening April had vanished at around 6 p.m, driving down her street, not far from where Millsap's body was later recovered. During this sighting, she told police that she had seen the driver and a passenger staring out of the window and pointing at her, which had left her feeling somewhat uneasy, so much so she videotaped the van. After this sighting was reported to the police, locals became fearful that a predator was lurking amongst them, possibly searching for their next victim. Hundreds of tips were called in regarding the van, however the owner, who was a contractor, came forward and was out working in the area that day, as confirmed by his colleague. Despite another blow to the investigation, more witnesses came forward, including a father and his 2 daughters who had reportedly seen April on the trail at around 6:30 p.m, talking to a man on a motorcycle. According to the witness, April was on her phone, and the man, who was wearing a helmet, was walking next to her with his motorbike alongside him. The witness themselves was a dirt biker and managed to tell the police the make and model of the street-legal dirt bike he had seen. Other witness descriptions of the dirt bike were very similar to the original witness's description, adding credibility to the accuracy of his description. Police had another significant lead to follow, and when one officer went home for his lunch break, he saw a bike resembling the one seen and snapped a photograph of it. Authorities soon discovered that the bike belonged to a 34-year-old man named James Van Callis, who lived 20 miles outside of Armada in Wells Township. Upon arriving at his residence at around 10 p.m. on July 28th, authorities questioned him about his bike and the clothing he had been wearing, but claimed to be wearing different shoes to the ones used in April's murder. He claimed to have been at his brother's house during the time of the homicide, but despite his brother confirming his alibi, something didn't sit right with the authorities. They seized his phone, and GPS data revealed that Van Callis had actually been in Armada during the time of the crime. Police managed to obtain a search warrant of Van Callis's residence, where they uncovered that he and his father had been growing marijuana illegally, leading to both men being arrested. During this time, authorities searched for any DNA or trace evidence on his clothing, shoes, and bike helmet which could implicate him in April's murder, but it was clear that efforts had been made to clean all of these items. Sadly, no DNA evidence was found at Van Callis's home, which would suggest any involvement in the crime. The day following the search warrant being executed at Van Callis's residence, his girlfriend contacted the police and told them that James had been out on his bike the night of April's murder, and upon his return home, she saw him cleaning his helmet and a pair of black and white basketball shoes, specifically of Air Jordan brand, shoes which had not been found during the search of the residence. While searching through Van Callis's online activities, a number of strange and disturbing searches had been put into Google, revolving around older men speaking to younger girls. His phone also revealed that he had secretly been filming young teenage girls in the area without their knowledge. Even more damning, his Facebook profile showed a photograph of him wearing Air Jordans that his girlfriend had described to the police. Forensic experts compared a new pair of the same shoes in question to the tread pattern of those used on April, and an exact match was made. The question remained, however, where were these shoes? Meanwhile, the FBI, who had been analysing April's phone, made a startling discovery. A sports tracking app on the device had recorded April's exact movements on the day of her death. Her walking speed increased rapidly after sending her final haunting text, indicating she was afraid of being abducted. Something had frightened her enough to increase her walking speed, and that was James Van Callis. The cell data showed April's phone move from the site after about 15 minutes at a pace of 17 to 19 miles per hour, which indicated it was on board the motorcycle fleeing the scene. CCTV from the neighbourhood confirmed this to be the case and matched with the cell data's GPS. There was no denying this evidence. On October 8th of 2014, James Van Callis was charged with the murder of April Millsap whilst in custody for drug offences. The trial for April's murder commenced in January of 2016, and the following month, James Van Callis was found guilty of first-degree murder, kidnap and sexual assault, and was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. On an episode of #TextMeWhenYouGetHome, a TV series following true stories of female victims of crime, Jennifer, April's mother, said of the verdict, quote, "It wasn't the closure I wanted because it didn't bring her back. She walked out the door and never came home. I'd like to think that the joy that she had overshadows this tragedy. She touched our hearts." A memorial garden was created at the head of the Macomb Orchard Trail in honour of the 14-year-old, who has never been forgotten by those who loved her and cherished her the most.